Okay, hi, Professor Chang. I hope you can hear me very clearly. I'm going to be going over my Excel spreadsheet, my calculations, my assumptions, and then what I would do as an investor. I'll be touching a little bit on if I were to do it alone and if I would prefer to do it in a partnership. And I will also be showing my resources as to like why I made these assumptions and why I believe this is the best course of action for this property. We're just going to start sharing my screen here. Okay. So I decided to do this property I found on 1434 West 43rd Street in Los Angeles. I figured Los Angeles is the best safe bet for anybody looking to rent a property. I looked for something that was 6 bedrooms minimum, and it has 3 baths. There's 3 units in here, so it's a triplex. And it was listed on November 4th last month, but it recently dropped by $50,000 on the original purchasing price. And I reflected that on my calculations. So over here are the key features that I gathered from the description. It's an older model. It was built in 1930, so there is rent control because it is in the Los Angeles County area, but I will get to that in a moment. It is fully renovated. Everything that's inside the house looks very nice and clean. It's very beautiful. There's an open floor plan. There's storage space. There's 7 parking places around the building. Very lovely. Now, here's the purchasing price. Again, it was lowered by $50,000. I don't think it was because of the condition. I think it's mainly because of the area that it's in, and the owners realized that it's classified as like, it would be a class B, being generous. I personally believe like it could be a B plus just because of how nicely fixed up it was, but around the area, it isn't very tidy, but is also not a C class. So here would be the 25% down amount. I kept the depreciation over 27.5 years assumption from the last couple assignments. So it would be about 44,000 a year, but this is the made up cost. The initial investment, I thought it would just be the 25% down. I couldn't find anything on the Redfin listing that I believed would fall under the initial investment, like before everything else, because it was newly renovated. There wasn't anything else. I didn't have to like consider construction or other contracted fees. I forget what the word is. So yeah, I just put the 25% down initial investment. And then for the income statement for all 3 units, I put the exact same amount of $2,600 per month. This looks a little bit low. I took your advice. I underestimated the amount a little bit because for the surrounding area, compared to other properties that have the same amount of bedrooms and more than 1.5 baths, the average would be about 3,800, with only the 25th percentile being about 2,200. And I thought, okay, let's try to find something that's nice and in the middle. Just see how that works out, play around with that. So I thought 2,600, and it's also because the units are 2 bedrooms each. And I understand that they're much smaller than the other properties that we analyzed in class. So I figured that that would be a good number. So that would bring in $93,600 per year for all 3 of them. For the operating expenses, most of them I got off of Redfin. A lot of them were given to me. The only maintenance and repairs that I could find were the gardener fees, so I did include that. The vacancy I assumed was at 3%, so that's going to be 2808. Property taxes, I was given a tax of 14,387, but I assumed 1.25 like the other analyses we've done. And it is higher by over $600 by my estimate. So I just thought I'd add a little note there. Management fees, I assumed that it was 6% as usual, and then I added everything up to be about $29,000. For debt servicing, I put everything into the amortization calculator. And the thing that I wanted to explain with this is for mortgage, I put a 30-year fixed rate at 3.2%. Now you may be wondering, why am I using 3.2%? I wanted to see if I could find a current number for what mortgages are going for now. And the one that I found was from bankrate.com, saying that current rates in the state of California are 3.20 for a 30-year fixed rate. And it does vary for different lenders, but 3.20 was good enough of an estimation for me. So that's what I went with. And these are the interest and principal pay downs given to me from the amortization calculator. I added those up as well. And then for the net operating income, it was the income minus the operating expenses, but also to calculate the expected return for 1 year, I decided that it would be net operating income minus the taxable income. And luckily for me, because I set the loan amount, not the loan amount, because I sent the rental income amount to be very low, I ended up getting a low taxable income, because if I were to make it go any higher, I played around with the numbers a little bit, it would be, I would owe money. So this would be the approximated expected return for the year. And the gross rent multiplier is 12.82 about. It looks lower than usual for the county and state, and I did realize that. I looked for the closest resource I could find, which is this one. It would be the gross rent multiplier for apartment buildings. And for the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim, California area, it would be 14.28. It was 14.29 specifically for Los Angeles. However, this is for buildings that were built around 1950 and 1979. This building was built in 1930, so it's 90 years old. So I think that it's better that it's lower, because it would take less time for the price to be paid off. And I did assume, based on the cash on cash, based on the cap rate, how long it would take to pay off if this is the expected return every year, or even slightly more, it would be about 4 years, so that's nice. The cap rate is 5.39%, which means there would be less risk in investing. I did make a note here saying that on Redfin, the cap rate was stated to be 6%, or more specifically 6.7. So it's lower than it was estimated. The cash flow is a little over $14,000. Cash on cash is 4.69%. Return on investment, no appreciation, 0.0016, and with 3% market appreciation, it is 0.0198. And the return on equity and the 3% market appreciation, huge difference, being about 15%, jumping to almost 141%. Now, moving on to my report. What would I do with all of this? Well, I am a Assuming that I'm doing this on my own, I would prefer to do a 1031 exchange after holding on to the items for a while. However, because I do not have the funds as an individual, I would need to go into a partnership. And I believe that for the partnership, it would be best to get a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loan. I found this article for the options that organizations have for partnerships, and it looks like we could lock in the interest rate in advance. So I think that's very good. So it won't like change. And there are other enhancements that go along with it as well for being in a partnership. Specifically, I would not want to go over 5 people, because not only would the amount in the shares decrease, the percentages, but I've had better experiences working in groups of 5 or smaller, because there would be less of butting heads. And then going back to what I said, if I were to do this alone and I were to do a 1031 exchange, since the property is a little over, a little under $1.2 million, I think I could easily find a property in Los Angeles that is more than that. And that's good if I want to use the money that I get from the sale of 1434 West 43rd Street to be dedicated to my purchase of another building or an investment in another building. Now, I did look up I looked up any restrictions for the 1031 exchange on partnerships, and it looks like as long as we get into a tenancy in common, the equivalency of our shares will be acknowledged. However, it would be more difficult if we were to try and go off on our own and do that investment without our partners. It'd be more difficult as an LLC to do a 1031. Ideally, I would like the person with the most experience to be the person to have the income filed under while we do contribute to the down payment. And I believe that with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loans, it would be great to help with the mortgage. And they would also be at a much lower rate than bank loans. Personally, I'm more cautious about bank loans because I know that they're higher, like from experiences with student loans. I'd rather not do that. I'd rather go with government loans. And yeah, so in conclusion, I decided to, hold on, sure. Okay. So in conclusion, I decided to analyze 1432 West 43rd Street because I did want to see if there was any older properties that may have been a little bit more refurbished that had some potential in making a profit. And I thought this was perfect because it's hard for me to judge it was hard for me to judge the building at first because the neighborhood around it, the other houses also looked like they were newly remodeled. They look old style on the outside, but they were very clean. The issue was in the surrounding area. It wasn't very nice. There was some graffiti. There were exposed. There was an exposed car security business, and I figured that was a bit of a detriment. But I do think that because The owner has been willing to lower the price a little bit, and it has been newly remodeled. It's next to the University of Southern California and a bunch of elementary schools and high schools. And it is in southern Los Angeles. That it would be a good investment to make money on the side. It would be very stable, and maybe after a year or two, it can be traded up for a more expensive property in Los Angeles. So yeah, that was my pitch, and that was my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you. And